Imagine you finally did it. You bought your absolute dream villa in Thailand.
Right, the ultimate goal for so many people.
Exactly. And you used a standard Thai company structure to hold the deed because the property broker sitting across the desk from you told you it was an open secret.
Yeah, they tell you everybody does it this way to get around the foreign ownership laws.
Right. And for years, they were right. But today, you wake up, you pour your morning coffee, and you find out your villa is on the verge of being permanently confiscated by the state.
Wow.
And you have zero legal recourse. So today we're doing a deep dive into Thailand's unprecedented 2026 nominee crackdown. We're drawing from this really comprehensive report by CondoDee to understand why the era of, shadow ownership in paradise is just officially over.
Yeah, it really is a profound wake-up call for thousands of foreign investors.
Yeah.
Because when people buy property overseas, they often treat it as this simple, isolated transaction like, buying a car.
Right, exactly. You pay the money, you get the keys.
Yeah, right. But real estate is actually an ongoing legal relationship with a sovereign nation. And if the foundation of that relationship relies on a legal gray area or outright bypassing the law using proxy citizens, well, that permanence is just an illusion.
It's built on sand.
Exactly. But I want to be clear. Our goal with this deep dive isn't to be alarmist or to scare you. The objective is really to unpack the mechanics of this shift so that foreign owners can understand their actual exposure and, make legally sound, compliant decisions moving forward.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through the source material, this feels heavily reminiscent of someone driving 20 miles over the speed limit for a decade.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right, you do it because, historically, the traffic cameras on that highway are just turned off. But in 2026, Thailand didn't just turn the old cameras back on. They installed this fully automated cross-reference surveillance grid, and the fines for speeding are now completely ruinous.
That captures the dynamic perfectly, yeah. We are looking at a fundamental structural shift here. It went from occasional reactive administrative warnings to this proactive unified enforcement engine.
So what did that look like before, though?
Well, in the past, if a local land office suspected a foreign buyer was using a Thai nominee, which is just a local citizen holding shares on paper, while the foreigner holds all the actual control, they might reject the transfer. Or maybe they just issue a warning.
Kind of a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now, the Thai authorities have assembled this massive alphabet soup of enforcement agencies all working in tandem.
You're talking about the multi-agency task force they put together.
Yes. So you have the Department of Business Development, or the DDD, which handles corporate registrations. And they're now working directly with the Department of Land.
Which makes sense.
It does. But what elevates this from a normal bureaucratic audit to a serious legal crackdown is the inclusion of the Department of Special Investigation. That's essentially Thailand's equivalent of the FBI.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and they also brought in the Anti-Money Laundering Office, or AMLO. And for the most sensitive provincial cases, they're even deploying the Internal Security Operations Command.
Man, when the Anti-Money Laundering Office and Special Investigations step in, it ceases to be a paperwork discrepancy pretty fast. But how are they actually connecting the dots? A government can declare a crackdown, sure, but if the local offices still operate in silos, nothing really changes on the ground.
Right, and that was the old problem. But the mechanism driving this new crackdown is a 13-digit legal entity ID system.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, previously, the left hand really didn't know what the right hand was doing. A company could register at the DBD up in Bangkok and then go buy land at a local office in some coastal province, and those two databases never spoke to each other.
So you could just slip right through the cracks.
Easily. But this new 13-digit ID hardwires the DBD's corporate database directly to the Department of Land's title records. And it does this in real time.
So they've essentially weaponized their own tax and corporate data against the land registry.
Precisely. They're conducting these automated, ultimate beneficial owner checks. The system doesn't just look at the name on the deed anymore.
All right, it looks deeper.
Yeah, it instantaneously cross-references the company's ownership history, the financial standing of the shareholders, and its actual real-world business activity.
That is a massive technological leap.
It is. To put the scale of this into perspective, the authorities reviewed over 203,000 corporate records.
Wait, 203,000?
Across all 77 provinces. The system immediately flagged 4,041 companies as high risk.
Oh, wow. Just instantly.
Instantly. Furthermore, the DBD moved over 11,000 companies to defunct status to neutralize them. just to prevent them from being used as dormant shell companies later on.
That defunct status is a massive move, just wiping them off the board. And the financial fallout is already super visible, right? I mean, the report noted AMLO has executed over 10 billion Thai in asset seizures.
It's staggering.
It really is. But to really understand how this macro-level sweep operates, we have to look at the regional enforcement strategies. Because from the report, it seems like they're adjusting their tactics based on the geography.
Oh, absolutely. The regional approach is fascinating because it shows they really understand the different flavors of this loophole.
Right. So where did they start?
Well, if we start in Bangkok, the authorities are laser-focused on the luxury villa market in areas like Krung Thep Kritha and Pattaya. They specifically targeted 33 luxury villas worth a combined 1.27 billion baht.
That's a lot of money tied up in residential real estate.
Yeah, and every single one of these was utilizing the classic 51% Thai, 49% foreign corporate structure.
Okay, hold on. I actually want to push back on this a bit. Because I know people who have operated legitimate businesses in Thailand for a decade, and the 5-149 split is like the absolute bedrock of foreign business under the Foreign Business Act.
That's very common.
So are you telling me the government is suddenly criminalizing a legally codified business structure? Because that sounds like a massive overreach that would terrify actual commercial investors.
No, it's a crucial distinction to make. The 5-149 corporate structure itself remains perfectly legal. It was designed to encourage genuine industrial and commercial investment in Thailand.
Right.
The authorities are not criminalizing the structure itself. They are targeting illegal behavior hiding inside that structure.
Okay, so what's the specific behavior that actually triggers the raid then?
The trigger is an automated red flag based on basic financial logic.
Yeah.
The new system looks for a company that owns, say, a 300 million baht luxury residential asset.
Yeah.
But that same company has zero operational revenue.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, zero employees. And it has never filed a tax return. The algorithm catches the anomaly. It proves that the Thai company isn't a functioning commercial enterprise at all.
It's just a shell.
Exactly. It's merely a holding vehicle designed specifically to bypass foreign land ownership laws.
So the algorithm filters out the actual businesses and highlights the ghosts. That completely shifts the perspective. So they catch the wealthy buyers in Bangkok using this logic, but following the paper trail of individual buyers has to be pretty slow.
It is, yeah.
It seems like when they moved down to the coast, to Pattaya and Chonburi province, they changed their strategy entirely to go after the mechanics building these ghost companies.
Yes, exactly. In March 2026, they launched Operation Lightning Strike in Chonburi. And this operation really exposed the architecture of the loophole. Regulators actually coined a term for what they found. They call them super nominees.
Here's where it gets really interesting. A super nominee. That sounds like a corporate buzzword, but the actual mechanics of it are wild. We aren't talking about some sophisticated offshore trust here.
No, not at all.
We're talking about a human shell corporation.
Exactly. They discovered single individual Thai citizens, often people just earning a very standard local wage listed on paper as the majority shareholder across more than 100 different companies.
That isn't...
One single individual acting as the legal firewall for over 300 million baht in combined real estate assets.
It's absurd on its face. I mean, a local citizen making maybe 20,000 baht a month is technically the controlling owner of 100 luxury properties, just acting as a buffer between the real foreign owners and the tax authorities.
And the authorities recognize that, a single citizen doesn't orchestrate a network of 100 companies on their own.
Right, they have to be recruited.
Exactly. So Operation Lightning Strike resulted in 146 companies being blacklisted. But more importantly, authorities revoked the business licenses of several prominent law and accounting firms that were facilitating these arrangements.
Wow, they went right after the source.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, they are systematically dismantling the professional networks. They're actually working with the Lawyers Council of Thailand and the Federation of Accounting Professions to just completely close the supply chain of these nominees.
So in Pattaya, they basically shut down the enablers. But tracking corporate paper trails and auditing law firms is, that's methodical, quiet work. What really seemed to pour gasoline on this nationwide fire wasn't an audit at all. It was a highly public confrontation down south in Phuket.
Right. Phuket really became the epicenter of the most aggressive enforcement phase. And it was entirely triggered by a public incident on July 25th, 2026 at the Chabad Center in Patong.
Right. From the source notes, this wasn't just some routine safety inspection. There was an active challenge to Thai authority over those premises. And in a country that deeply values sovereignty and respect, challenging the local authorities is like pulling a single loose thread on a sweater that ends up unraveling the entire garment.
That's exactly what happened. That public challenge offended the Ministry of the Interior directly. Deputy Interior Minister Palpi Sawantchawi issued this very stark statement, reminding everyone that anyone on Thai soil must comply with Thai law, and absolutely no one has the right to claim sovereignty over Thai territory.
Which really hits on the core theme here.
It does. It perfectly underscores the theme of the CondoDee report, living in a host country is a privilege. When that privilege is abused publicly, the response is going to be overwhelming.
And the resulting financial probe in Phuket was just staggering. That one incident cracked open an Israeli-linked network of more than 100 companies generating over 5 billion baht in annual revenue.
Yeah.
All of it entirely hidden within these nominee structures.
The province-wide sweep that followed was massive. They identified 1,752 foreign-held companies. They flagged 361 of them as high-risk targets.
Wow.
And they found 140 of those super nominee bookkeepers holding dozens of stakes. The scrutiny is so intense down there now that new foreign company registrations in Phuket have dropped by 50%.
Half, just gone.
Yeah, and they are even going backwards, auditing how some foreign individuals obtained Thai citizenship in the first place, just to ensure the citizenship process itself wasn't corrupted as like an ultimate real estate loophole.
It's an incredibly wide net. And from Phuket, the sweep naturally moved to the neighboring Gulf Islands, Koh Phangan and Koh Samui. And this is where the human stakes of these corporate loopholes really come into focus for me.
Definitely.
Because it's easy to look at this as just wealthy expats playing shell games with high-paid lawyers. But in phase 1 of the island sweeps, authorities found that state welfare card holders were being used as proxy shareholders.
Yeah, that is arguably the darkest side of the whole nominee practice. These are highly financially vulnerable Thai citizens who receive state assistance.
Right.
And they're recruited for these tiny payouts to sign paperwork they often don't even understand.
Right.
And suddenly, they are put in massive legal jeopardy, holding personal liability for multi-million baht properties.
It's terrible.
The government views this as outright exploitation of their most vulnerable citizens by foreign capital.
It's predatory, plain and simple. So in phase 2 on the islands, the government just brought the hammer down. They deployed over 300 officers. In just one cluster of investigations, they targeted 32 companies, they made 22 arrests, and seized 45 land plots.
They weren't messing around.
Not at all. And they proved that no sector is immune. They raided a yoga retreat where a foreign national used Thai proxies, which resulted in the seizure of a 60 million baht property and exposed an unlicensed hotel operation. They even investigated a Canadian-linked nominee structure tied to a local school.
The shift in posture is total. But, understanding the history and the geography of the raids is really only part of the equation here.
Right. There's the mechanics of it.
Yeah, to truly grasp the reality of this crackdown, you have to understand the specific mechanisms of detection. How does the trap actually close today compared to, say, 5 years ago?
Right. If the automated cameras are on, how are they taking the picture? Walk us through these new compliance checks.
So the most immediate change, which was implemented on August 1st, 2026, is the mandatory financial check.
Yeah.
Any Thai shareholder in a foreign-invested company must now provide 3 months of bank statements to the DBD.
Okay, to prove what?
To prove they purchased their shares with their own legitimate funds.
Oh, so that instantly kills the old trick where the foreign partner secretly loans the Thai proxy the money to buy the 51% stake?
Exactly.
They are forcing you to follow the money back to its actual origin.
Precisely. And the second mechanism is in-person verification. Company directors can no longer hide behind stacks of paperwork submitted by some courier.
Right, the old way.
Yeah. Now, they are required to physically appear at the DBD to verify their status.
Yeah.
It completely eliminates the ghost director phenomenon.
You actually have to stand in a government office and answer for the company.
Yeah. And then you combine that with the real-time data matching we discussed earlier, the 13-digit ID automatically throwing up dormant flags when tax filings don't match the land assets.
It's an airtight system.
It is. And finally, they introduced direct enabler accountability. AMLO is now enforcing strict reporting requirements on lawyers and real estate professionals.
So the people setting it up are on the hook, too.
Big time. If they facilitate a suspicious transaction, they face severe legal consequences themselves. Our sources noted one bookkeeper who was caught holding shares in 212 companies worth nearly $250 million.
The insulation is totally gone. The lawyer who used to protect you is now legally obligated to report you to the anti-money laundering office. And the data shows this multi-layered net is really working.
It is.
I mean, the initial rollout led to a 51% drop in nominee risk companies, and when the additional checks hit, it dropped a further 65%.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the system is now designed to catch the anomaly automatically before a human investigator even opens a file folder.
So the system catches you, the automated red flag goes up on your villa in, say, 2020, maybe you got an administrative warning and a fine. What actually happens to you today? Let's talk about the consequences.
The escalation in penalties is severe. Previously, the standard penalty was a compulsory sale.
Okay, so you had to sell it.
Yeah, if caught, you were ordered to sell the property within a year, allowing you to at least recoup your funds. But that grace period is gone. The penalty has shifted to absolute confiscation.
Wait, the state just absorbs the asset? Zero compensation?
Zero compensation. Furthermore, the financial penalties under the land code have increased dramatically. They jump from a maximum of 50,000 baht all the way up to 3 million baht.
Ouch.
And the Foreign Business Act fines now include enhanced daily penalties for every single day you remain in non-compliance.
It's just a compounding financial disaster. But it doesn't stop at fines, does it?
No, it doesn't. Because AMLO is involved, these nominee arrangements are increasingly prosecuted as money laundering offenses.
Which changes everything.
It really does.
Huh.
That means immediate asset freezing, followed by 2 to 3 years of imprisonment. And from an immigration standpoint, you are looking at immediate visa annulment, deportation, and permanent blacklisting from entering Thailand.
So to you, the listener, if your current legal strategy is to just lay low, wait and see, or hold on until they force you to sell, that strategy is suicide. Waiting now means losing the house, having your bank accounts frozen, and losing your right to even step foot in the country ever again.
Yeah, it is a risk profile that is just impossible to justify, particularly because legitimate legal alternatives have actually always existed for foreign residents.
Yes, and this is exactly what I wanted to transition to, because if the paper company loophole is dead, what are expats actually doing? They aren't all just abandoning their homes and flying back to Europe or North America.
No, not at all.
I noticed in the CondoDee report, they outlined a legal workaround. And I want to frame this not as a real estate pitch, but as a really fascinating look into how international law and foreign investment are adapting to this new era of surveillance. They call it the 3-pillar remediation model.
Yeah, it is a vital framework for understanding how to operate cleanly within Thai law. So, Pillar 1 of this model is genuine Thai titling.
What does that entail?
This means the property is transferred out of the fake nominee company and into a real Thai-owned investment group or entity that takes actual commercial risk. There are no proxy shareholders. It is a legitimate arm's-length transfer of ownership.
Okay, but if I transfer the ownership of my villa to a real Thai entity, how do I legally protect my right to actually sleep in that bed and hold the keys? That brings us to Pillar 2, right?
Exactly. Pillar 2 is registered occupancy. You exit the corporate shareholder structure entirely. In return, you receive a registered 30-year leasehold or a specific right called Sap-Ing-Sith.
Okay, Sap-Ing-Sith. Break that down for us, because that sounds like heavy legal jargon.
And to understand Sap-Ing-Sith, don't think of it like renting an apartment with a private contract you just keep in your desk drawer. Think of it like buying the absolute rights to a piece of dirt for 30 years.
Okay.
It is a legally enforceable occupancy right that is stamped and recorded directly at the government land office. Because it is attached to the land title itself, it comes with a non-disturbance guarantee.
Wait, meaning what exactly?
Meaning, even if the Thai entity sells the land to a new owner tomorrow, your rights are attached to the soil. The new owner absolutely must honor your occupancy.
Wow, that is a massive distinction. You are trading the illusion of illegal ownership for the absolute guarantee of legal occupancy.
Yes, exactly.
And what about the money you put in to buy the place? That's Pillar 3, secured financing.
Right. Any capital you contribute is documented purely as a clean, ordinary loan agreement. You completely avoid any disguised equity, hidden control, or shadow voting rights.
It's all above board.
Yes, you strip away every single element that makes it a nominee structure in the eyes of the law, while perfectly preserving your legal right to enjoy the property.
Now, obviously, every property is different, but what does adapting to this legal framework actually cost an owner?
Well, the source material provides some standard reference points. You are looking at roughly 1.2% of the property value annually for occupancy costs. The initial legal setup fees run around 100,000 baht.
Okay, that's not terrible.
No. You also have to factor in standard government transfer costs to move the deed, though, which usually include a 2% land transfer fee and a 3.3% specific business tax.
So it forces a very clear decision matrix for the foreign owner. I mean, do you want to own a multi-million baht asset illegally on paper, constantly looking over your shoulder for an automated tax audit that will result in total confiscation?
Right.
Or do you pay the transfer fees, structure a legal Sap-Ing-Sith, and have a guaranteed government-stamped right to occupy your home for decades in total peace?
This raises an important question about how you view your investment. When presented with the reality of the 2026 enforcement grid, the choice is obvious. The safest and most respectful move is to address your compliance voluntarily.
Get ahead of it.
Exactly. Restructuring on your own terms is a fundamentally different legal position than trying to explain yourself after your assets have already been frozen by AMLO.
It all cycles back to the core theme of the CondoDee report. Choosing to live or invest in Thailand or any foreign country really is a choice to be a guest. Respecting the laws of your host country isn't a suggestion. It is the absolute foundation of your right to be there. The era of the open secret is definitively over.
The enforcement technology has simply caught up with the law, and the consequences of ignoring that reality are just too severe to risk.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've just spent this deep dive exploring how Thailand successfully implemented real-time cross-agency data matching to systematically hunt down hidden property ownership.
Right, connecting the databases.
Exactly. They linked their corporate registries to their land titles and automated the anomaly detection. It is highly sophisticated and it is incredibly effective. So how long will it be until other popular expat havens around the globe places struggling with foreign capital pricing locals out of the housing market? Look at this exact playbook and adopt the same technology.
It's a very real possibility.
Right. Could the era of international shadow ownership be coming to an end everywhere? Something to think about the next time someone smiles across the desk and tells you, don't worry, everyone else is doing it.
A very pertinent question for the future of global real estate.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your investments transparent, respect the local laws, and we'll catch you on the next one.